Welcome to Iceland. My name is Mary Frances Davidson.
And my name is Julie Ingham, and we work for the UNESCO Grow Fisheries Training Programme. In this video series, we will be exploring Sustainable Development Goal 14.
Sustainable Development Goal 14 relates to life in water and how we can build a path toward conserving living aquatic resources in our oceans and seas.
There are 10 targets within SDG 14, and 5 of them deal with fisheries and how humans can use the living aquatic resources to build the future we want.
SDG 14 deals with interactions between humans and aquatic ecosystems. All over the world, people rely on these systems to provide them with food, income, livelihoods, and not to mention ecosystem services like regulation of the global climate.
In this way, as we work together towards achieving the targets of SDG 14, we are also considering the other Sustainable Development Goals, including ending poverty, ending hunger, good health, quality education, and of course, climate change.
For over 20 years, the Fisheries Training Program in Iceland has been working toward building capacity in developing countries to sustainably manage living aquatic resources.
Through training and research, we've worked all over the world. We've trained over 400 fisheries professionals, working with research institutions, universities, and government agencies in developing countries.
In this SDG 14 video series, we explore some of the major issues facing the development of fisheries across the world today.
At the end of this video, we post some questions, which we hope will help you reflect on the fisheries where you live and what might be needed to address the targets of Sustainable Development Goal 14.
Let's dive into SDG 14.7, which aims by 2030 to increase the economic benefits to small island developing states and least developed countries from sustainable use of marine resources. Worldwide, about 10% of people rely on fisheries as a source of food and income. If properly managed and handled, fish is a renewable source of protein and micronutrients vital for human health and survival, particularly among the very young and pregnant women. Unfortunately, in many places today, the way fish is handled turns what should be a health food into a health hazard. If we're going to achieve SDG 14.7 and increase economic benefits to the poorest countries from our marine resources, one of the biggest issues to solve is related to post-harvest loss. That is to say, what happens to a fish from the time it's caught until it reaches the consumer. Margeir Gissurarson is a food scientist who spent his career researching the way fish spoils and what can be done to preserve it better. He's going to talk to us now about how we can make the most out of these precious marine resources. Margeir, welcome. So, to begin with, I'd like to ask you if you can describe the global challenge of food insecurity and the role fish can play in answering human hunger.
Yeah, I think the post-harvest losses is strongly linked to food security. As we can see in the world today, we are producing around 4.8 billion tons of food. A lot of this billion tons that are being lost are due to post-harvest losses. The post-harvest losses are very different in developed country as it is in developing country. The main problem in developed countries is the discard of fish and the waste at the consumer level. In developing country, the main problem lies in the processing, handling and distribution of the fish.
Can you give us some estimates about the size and the scale, particularly in developing countries, about how much is actually being lost?
In developing countries, there are about, the figures are very, they vary a lot because it hasn't been studied very thoroughly. But you can see figures which is direct loss between 5 and 20%. And if you look at it as a value loss, it goes all the way up to 60%, which means that 60% of the fish that is caught, the value is decreased in the value chain. So that's a lot of food and a lot of value.
I wonder if you could describe a bit about the different types of post-harvest loss, because I imagine it must look really different in different places, and there must be lots of ways that we could consider economic or physical loss of fish. How is it typically classified?
Post-harvest losses are typically classified as physical losses, as you mentioned, which are direct losses, which is maybe due to the fish is just being rotten and spoiled, also because of insects that are attacking the fish during processes or drying mainly. And then we have value that is being lost, and that means that the fish is being devaluated due to quality. And that is strongly also linked to the processing method and handling and distribution. And then, of course, we have the market loss, which is just, as in many countries, they are not able to store their product for very long, and therefore the market overflows. And that means the prices go down, and they can't wait for a better situation. So these are the three types of losses experienced.
I wonder, because I know you've spent a lot of time working in Africa, also teaching with the Fisheries training program, if you can give us any practical examples that really illustrate the problem of post-harvest loss.
Yeah, maybe if you look at you can maybe take an example of a project that was carried out by one of the fellows from Iceland. It indicates that it was Lilian Begania, I think her name is, a study done in 2010, and that clearly, tells us what's happening in developing countries. This was a case study done on small fish like daga that is caught in the Lake Victoria, and the main losses experienced in that case is that there are mainly two issues that are major losses. One is, of course, that the fish is getting spoiled. Either it is totally unsaleable or it can be sold at a reduced price. And secondly, which is a funny thing, is that there's a lot of losses due to breakage of the fish. The fish is dried, and the government decided at that time to put a levy on transport of the fish into the regional market. So therefore, they started to squeeze the fish into the bags, and therefore it broke, and which ended up in a huge loss in value at the market. So those were the two main issues. But it shows us that the drying is insufficient. They don't have any facility to dry, and during the rainy season there is a big devaluation of the fish because it doesn't dry enough, so it gets spoiled. So those were the two main causes there. But in general, in developing countries, you can see that the main cause is the lack of ice, because fish is very fragile, or it spoils very rapidly. And if you don't ice it and you keep it in tropical weathers, it really doesn't last for long. It may last for the day, but at that time, you can still feel it started to smell very badly. And then we run into other problems that once the fish is starting to spoil, it can still be sold on the market because the requirements are not as high in countries with very low income, and they need food, and therefore spoiled fish can be sold on the market, even it is not really, it's spoiled. And that leads to another issue, that if you are selling a spoiled fish on the market, it also affects the food safety. And if you look at the total number of foodborne illnesses in the world, there are about 420,000 people that are dying because of foodborne illnesses. And most of this is in developing countries. And about 1/3 of these are children within the years of 5 years old. So the handling of the fish is not only affecting the value and the income of the families, but also on the safety or the health of the consumers.
I want to ask you next a little bit, because of all of your experience in food science, about the process of fish spoilage. Because you mentioned fish is a really delicate material. So from the very moment that it dies, it starts to degrade. And if we're going to increase the economic benefits and reduce post-harvest loss, I think it's important to understand a little bit the science behind what's going on as a fish is spoiling.
Yeah, when the fish dies, all the defense mechanism of the fish, it breaks down, and we can say that bacteria is the main cause of fish spoilage. So, and if you look at a fish when it is caught, the bacterial load is mainly on the skin and in the gills and in the digestive tract. And we can estimate in the digestive tract you can find maybe the number of bacteria could maybe be 100 million per gram, a little less outside. And when the fish dies, and if it's not chilled or cooled down fast, then of course the bacteria will start to multiply. And enzymes that are in the digestive tract and also coming from the bacteria, they start digging their ways through the digestive walls and into the flesh. So immediately after catch, if you do not ice the fish, then it really starts to spoil as soon as the fish dies. And then this, of course, continues. It goes to the market, and usually you don't see any ice on the fish. So if you look at the value chain from the fishing, it goes to the market, and then it can go directly to the retail market, where the fish spoils furthermore because no ice is being placed on it, or it will go into processing. And the fish which goes directly to the market, if it's not sold that day, then they will process it. But then, of course, the fish is already spoiled. So, yeah, so that's the main thing. It is the bacteria and the enzymes that are attacking the fish.
So now that we have an understanding of the types of post-harvest loss that can occur and the scale of the problem, and also some of the solutions, such as using more ice and better handling methods, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the way forward that you see for developing countries, especially if we're going to try and increase the economic benefits to the least developed countries from marine resources.
Yeah, of course, the main thing is to provide them with ice. And if you look at, for example, this study that was done in Lake Victoria, she calculated, this young lady, that the loss or the post-harvest losses experienced just from that lake was about $20 million. If we could use that money to buy ice or ice machines and ice the fish in the beginning, they would probably make profit. So I think number 1, 2, and 3 is to use ice. Yeah.
I wonder if you can talk, if we manage to solve the problem of post-harvest loss, what are the other possibilities when it comes to generating economic benefits? If we are going to achieve target 14.7, then we have to figure out sort of innovative ways to make marine resources more valuable. How do we do that?
Yeah, first of all is to increase the quality of the fish. That is the key point. And you can see in many developing countries, when they come in, they talk about value addition. They want to learn value addition. And I have told them, okay, you cannot start talking about value addition until you get the quality right. So that is the point number one. Once the quality is getting better, then of course you can start thinking about getting more value from each kilo of fish that is caught. But people have a long way to go there. And of course, first of all is education, get the educational level of the people in the countries higher up. And then there's a lot of opportunities in increasing the income from the fisheries. But if you're thinking about at the same time, of course, there is a need for more food in the world. And we can see there's the SDG is one of the aim is to fulfill the food requirements of the world. And by doing so with the current conditions, they need to increase it by maybe 20% or something, which is a huge amount of food that will be produced. But they should start thinking about reducing the post-harvest losses in order to fulfill that. So you can maybe fill the gap a little bit just by handling the fish in a proper way.
Like I mentioned in the introduction, fish can be a really important source of protein and micronutrients, which are vital for human health. Can you describe a little bit more about the nutritious value of fish if it's handled properly?
Yeah, fish in general is a very important food item for the human diet. And one of the fatty acids that are necessary for the body and to keep our brains and heart going in a proper way is the omega-3 fatty acids, which we can only find in fish. And if you think about that if you can increase the quality of the fish, not losing so much of it, it could be very beneficial for the consumers, not only in developing countries, but all over the world. The quality of the fish is the main, is the most important thing, because once you get the quality right, you can start thinking about producing other valuable products from the fish. But of course, we need to look at it as fish is food first. And the byproducts coming from after you have produced the food, those are very valuable. You can see, for example, the skin can be used for clothes, for band-aids. Of course, the oil is very important. And there is a very important oil also in the head of the fish, which is not utilized, which you can sell at a high price. Fish meal is now being produced for maybe $1.50 per kilo a ton, which is very low. But if you would change that into protein pills, you could maybe sell that for $100 per kilo or something. So there will be value additions available. But you cannot do it if the raw material is bad.
In his talk, Margeir explains how we need food to sustain the world's growing population. When it comes to fisheries, there's a lot we can do to make better use of what we already have. What information is being collected along the value chain in your country that sheds a light on the types and scale of post-harvest losses? In your country, what effort is being made to provide fishers and fish processors with knowledge on the importance of reduced post-harvest losses? What are the main obstacles in your area of work to promote the reduction of post-harvest losses?